Olivia Hart had always lived her life quietly, the kind of quiet that grows roots in small American towns where routine is both comfort and cage. At 28, she had settled into a predictable rhythm: mornings at Willow and Pine Coffee House, afternoons working at the community center, evenings curled on her couch reading old novels or preparing lesson plans for the children she taught in weekend art workshops. She wasn't unhappy, just steady. Everyone who knew Olivia described her as kind, composed, reliable. But no one ever described her as someone who took risks, or someone who stepped outside the invisible borders she built around her life. She stayed away from chaos, avoided recklessness, and kept distance from anything that might complicate her world. Which was why the arrival of Daniel Mercer shook everything she thought she understood about herself. She first saw him one warm September morning at the cafe. The door opened with the soft jingle of its familiar bell, and she didn't notice him immediately. She was buried in her notebook, sketching rough outlines for her student's fall project. But then she heard a laugh. Deep, warm, unguarded. And for the first time in a long while, something made her look up for no reason other than curiosity. Daniel stood at the counter speaking to the barista. Olive-toned skin, dark hair ruffled as if he'd rushed out the door, a clean dress shirt rolled at the sleeves, and the tired but hopeful expression of someone starting over. He was new. She could always tell who wasn't from town. He glanced around, searching for a place to sit. Their eyes met, just briefly, and Olivia felt an unexpected flutter inside her chest. Not electric, not dramatic, just a small, quiet shift, like a single page turning in a book she didn't realize she was still reading. She looked away quickly. She didn't know him, and she certainly had no reason to feel anything at all. Daniel chose a table near hers. He opened his laptop, brows furrowed, fingers tapping rapidly. He looked focused but occasionally paused, rubbing the back of his neck as if carrying the weight of something invisible. When the barista called his name, he smiled gratefully and thanked her. That smile, that simple, sincere gesture, made Olivia notice him again. But she kept to herself, finishing her sketches before gathering her things and heading to the community center. She didn't know then that this seemingly insignificant morning would become the beginning of something that would challenge every careful rule she had ever built. Over the next week, Daniel became a familiar presence at the cafe. Olivia learned his patterns without meaning to. He came early, ordered black coffee with 2 sugars, typed with intense focus, and always paused to greet people politely when they made conversation. He had an easy manner about him, kind, respectful, unpretentious. One morning, as Olivia walked in, the cafe was unusually crowded, leaving only one free chair, across from him. He noticed her hesitation and offered a friendly smile. "You can sit here, if you'd like. I don't mind at all." She opened her mouth, intending to politely decline, but something inside her, something small and brave, nudged her otherwise. "Thank you," she said quietly and sat down. They didn't talk for the first few minutes. She worked on her sketches, he typed. But eventually, he leaned back, stretching his shoulders with a groan. "You ever have those days," he said, "where your brain wants to work but your heart is somewhere else entirely?" She looked at him, unsure how to respond. "I guess," she said softly. "Sometimes it's like that when I draw." His eyes lingered on her notebook. "You're an artist." "Not professionally. I teach kids art workshops on weekends." She hesitated. "They don't judge their own work yet." "It's refreshing." He smiled. "I envy that. I'm a journalist. Adult thoughts are much messier." Something about the way he said it hinted at a heaviness he didn't expand on. She didn't ask. She barely knew him, but it was the first real conversation they had. It was also the conversation that started everything. Over the next few weeks, they slowly became part of each other's routines. Not intentionally, not because they were seeking something. It just happened. They talked about books, music, the art of storytelling. He told her about growing up in Arizona, about his mother who loved gardening, about his younger sister who was studying to be a doctor. Olivia shared stories about teaching, about growing up in a town where everyone knew your name, about losing her father when she was 19 and learning how to build a life around the quiet grief. Their conversations were meaningful in a way that felt effortless, like they had known each other far longer than a few weeks. But even then, despite the connection, neither of them crossed lines. Their conversations stayed safe, respectful, grounded in genuine friendship. And then, on an evening in early October, everything changed. The community center was hosting a fundraising event for local art programs. Olivia was on the planning committee, so she arrived early to help set up. She didn't expect Daniel to show up at all. She certainly didn't expect him to walk in wearing a simple navy shirt that made him look almost painfully handsome, carrying a small bag of donated art supplies. Thought these might help, he said, handing them to her. She smiled, genuinely warmed. Thank you. This means a lot. The evening unfolded gently, music playing softly, families browsing art displays, children showing their parents their projects. Daniel stayed longer than she expected, helping where he could, talking to people, blending into the community as if he had always been part of it. Near the end of the event, as the sun began to dip behind the hills, Olivia stepped outside for a moment of air. Daniel followed a minute later, standing beside her but keeping a respectful distance. The kids really adore you, he said quietly. They adore anyone who lets them be creative, she replied with a small laugh. No, he said softly. It's you. She looked up, meeting his gaze. There was something deep and unspoken in his expression, something that made her heart lurch. But before anything could be said, a car pulled into the parking lot, and a woman stepped out. Her presence changed everything. Daniel's expression shifted instantly, his posture tightening. The woman, Emma, walked toward them with a mixture of relief and cautious concern. Daniel, she said gently. We need to talk. Olivia stepped aside instinctively, unsure what she was witnessing but sensing it was something delicate. Daniel's voice softened. Emma, I didn't know you were coming. I couldn't wait. The lawyer called. We finalized everything. Everything. The meaning hit Olivia immediately. Divorce. Daniel wasn't married anymore. But he had been. Recently. Too recently. He turned toward Olivia and spoke with quiet honesty. I should have told you sooner. I wasn't hiding anything. He exhaled deeply. I didn't want my past to define how people saw me here. Emma offered Olivia a polite, almost sorrowful smile. We're not together anymore, she explained softly. We haven't been for a long time. It just took time to make it official. Olivia felt a strange, indescribable ache, not jealousy, not discomfort, but an awareness that something complicated was unfolding around her. I'm sorry, Daniel said to her. I hope you don't think I misled you. You didn't, Olivia said honestly. But I think you need space. Both of you. It was the right thing to say. The clean thing. The respectful thing. They parted ways that night. Not because of drama, not because of betrayal, but because transition periods require distance and honesty. Over the next few weeks, Olivia avoided the cafe. She buried herself in work, focusing on her students, her community, her routines. She wasn't angry with Daniel. She simply didn't want to step into a story that wasn't ready to be rewritten yet. Daniel respected her space. He didn't show up at her work. He didn't message her. The quiet between them wasn't cold, it was careful. But the heart is a strange thing. It listens even when it pretends not to. One rainy evening, 2 months after the charity event, Olivia was locking up the community center when she heard a familiar voice behind her. Olivia. She turned. Daniel stood there, rain dampening his hair, holding an umbrella above himself but not stepping closer. I'm sorry, he said softly. I know you needed time. I wanted to respect that. But I also wanted to tell you, my life is finally settled. Everything legal, emotional, all of it. Emma and I are on good terms, we're friends, nothing more. She nodded, listening quietly. And I'm not asking for anything, he continued. I just didn't want things between us to end in silence. She studied him, the sincerity in his eyes, the steadiness in his voice. I never blamed you, she said. I know, he replied. But I needed to say it anyway. They stood in the rain, a respectful distance apart, yet connected by something that felt gentle and undeniable. Would you like to walk? He asked, lifting the umbrella slightly. Just as friends. She hesitated for a moment. Then nodded. They walked through the town, talking about small things at first. The weather, holiday plans, how the kids in her art class were preparing for winter projects. And slowly, naturally, deeper things surfaced. He told her about the mistakes he had made in his marriage, about the ways he grew from them, about the responsibility he took for his part in its end. She told him about her fears, of opening up, of letting people too close, of being afraid to be vulnerable. Maybe we're both learning, he said gently. Weeks turned into months. Their friendship grew again, stronger this time, clearer, anchored in honesty and mutual respect. They went on walks, attended community events, shared meals without calling them dates. Everyone around them saw the connection, but no one gossiped or questioned it. There was no scandal, no impropriety, just two adults navigating something new with care. One spring afternoon, While painting murals with the children at the center, Olivia caught Daniel watching her from across the room, admiration in his eyes but also patience. Endless patience. Later that day, he approached her as she cleaned brushes at the sink. "Olivia," he said softly, "I care about you. More than I've cared about anyone in a very long time. But only if you ever feel ready." She met his gaze. Something warm settled in her chest. Something steady, something hopeful. "I think," she began slowly, "I might be ready now. Not for a whirlwind romance. Not for declarations of love. For something real. Something carefully built. Something honest." Daniel smiled, relief softening his expression. He reached out, not to hold her hand, but simply to rest his hand over hers for a brief, respectful moment. They didn't rush. Their first official date didn't happen until weeks later, and even then, it was simple: a picnic at the park, laughter carried on warm breezes, conversations that stretched into dusk. Their love wasn't forbidden because of scandal. It was forbidden because of timing, because sometimes life brings two hearts together before they're ready, and it takes courage to pause, step back, and return when the moment is right. Years later, when people asked how they met, they smiled and said it began with a simple shared table at a cafe. But the truth was deeper. Their story began when they chose patience over impulse, clarity over confusion, and honesty over fear. And in the quiet whispers of those choices, their hearts found each other.